Welcome to the Talk and Chatter experience powered by Gasoline Alley Harley Davidson. My special guest for today's show is world record holder and professional hang glider pilot, Jonny Durand. Sit back and enjoy the ride. G'day, mate.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you so much, mate. It's, I really appreciate it. We first met Australia Day a few years ago at Toby's Australia Day party. And then obviously you jetted off around the world for another year. We're on sort of lockdown now. Can you tell us a bit about your history, mate?
I'm glad you didn't ask me to tell you about the party because I don't remember much about that. But
that can lie down, hey.
Yeah. Well, basically, I try to follow the summer around the world, competing in hang gliding.
Yeah, right.
So come sort of late March, I normally jet off to the other side of the world where it's starting to get warm over there. Normally in Brazil to start with, and then head over to the US, and then sort of hang out there, base myself out of LA, and fly to and from competitions from there, whether it's Europe or Brazil or around the States. And
is that summer, obviously, a climate's good for you to be in the air, but does it also help weather-wise with the sport that you do?
It does, yeah. We like the hot air. We need the warmer months to be able to hang glide generally, especially for competition, because we're out looking for thermals every day, which is the hot air rising. Right. Which, hang glider doesn't have an engine, so we need to use these pockets of warm air that are rising to stay up in the air and fly to our designated goal for the day.
Yeah, right. So it's all done on basically hot air rising is what causes your velocity.
It is, yeah.
Or terminal speed, or however it's described, I guess, in that. How is it described?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, like in a competition, we set a course each day, similar to something like a yacht race. Mm-hmm. Let's say it's 100 kilometres long, and it's the fastest pilot to complete the course is the winner for the day. So we have to try and find these pockets of hot air rising, just to get to the finish point. If you don't find the next pocket of air rising, you end up back on the ground again. So your day can end very early.
Right.
You can have a 5-minute flight or a 3-hour flight, So
seriously, it can be that. It's obviously that crucial because that's what propels you. But it can be that much of a difference, really.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So we basically get up there and we try to race through the sky, trying to find these pockets of hot air and to get us to our destination.
What sort of speeds?
Oh, we don't fly that fast. Generally on glides, we'll be somewhere in the 70, 80 kilometre per hour range. At the end, when we're racing into the finish line, we might see 120 k's an hour or so.
And is that something to do with being lower or high? Is there anything to do with elevation and speed?
No, it's just the faster we go, the more height we're losing. So
right,
we try to sustain our altitude as much as we can when we're flying along the course, but when we're diving on the finish line, we've got to get to the ground at some point. So
makes sense.
The faster we get there, the better chance of beating the person next to you. So.
And does everyone don't know nothing about it? So you have to educate me. Does everyone take off at the same time? And is it like that, like as in a race?
No, a lot of our competitions are actually done in the flatlands. So we use specially designed aircraft, either a motorised hang glider called a trike, or a Moy's Dragonfly, which is like an ultralight. Mm-hmm. And we put like a 70-metre long rope on the back of them, connect it to us, and they tow us up in the sky. Mm-hmm. And they'll take us to about 2,000 feet. Yep. We release from the ultralight and fly away. And generally we'll allow enough time for all the pilots to get up into the air. So we go up one at a time.
Right.
So the first pilot might have to fly around for an hour or so before we can actually start the race.
Really? So you can just be sort of not hovering around, but just waiting time in the air, pretty much.
Yeah, basically. So I like to use the the yachts as an example. You can't start the race from the docks. You know, you got to get out to a starting point and let everyone have the chance to get out there and get ready to start the race, and then off we go. So
pretty much the same sport, isn't it? Like obviously from land to air, it's the same sort of idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
Chasing air. And obviously sort of like waiting for people, everything like that is very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, we've just got that extra dimension that we've got to worry about. So that's where it becomes difficult.
How'd you get into it?
My father, he started hang gliding when I was about 9. We live up in the Gold Coast hinterland there on Beachmont, and I went to school right around the corner from one of the best hang gliding sites. So I got to see them flying all the time and sort of look out the classroom window and see them up there in the sky. And yeah, you know, it was just something that I always wanted to do, I guess.
And you did? Like you literally just you seen it, wanted to do it, and just chased it after that?
Pretty much. I mean, I grew up skateboarding and surfing.
Yep.
As I used to compete in skateboarding when I was quite young, and then surfing, you know, sort of did throughout school, and I guess just going down the Gold Coast, living in the mountains, I wasn't the closest person to the surf, so going down there and just the crowds and trying to fight for a wave all the time, and not being that as experienced as a lot of the other Gold Coast surfers, finding that you only get a handful of waves for, you know, 2 or 3 hours of surfing, and there was something about just jumping off the cliff and sort of discovering that there's no crowds anymore, and it's sort of all up to my, you know, to my own skill level to do what I could do with my hang glider, and that's sort of what I fell in love with, was the fact that I could, you know, every flight depended on my skill, and you know, I learned something new every day, and you just want to go back and get more the next day, you know.
And is that what it's like? For me, that sort of sounds like riding. The first time you start riding a bike or whatever, you just want to keep dipping your toe in the water a bit more. Is that what it's like as well?
I think so. I mean, obviously, it's you know, like you said, it's anything that you start doing and you grow a passion for, whether it's driving a car for the first time and all these things. You just want to get back out there and do it again and again. And I guess, you know, the added thing I had with hang gliding was the views that we get from up there, you know, and seeing the world from a different perspective that most people don't get to see. Yeah,
that would be incredible. It really would be. Did you, so you were 9? Was that your first time?
I used to, my first tandem flight, I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
But I had to have a little bit of size to me before I could pick a hang glider up and run down a hill with one. So I had to wait till I was nearly 15.
Yeah, right.
Before I was big enough to actually get a hang glider off the ground and fly one. So,
is there a rule is there like a rule and regulation on that, or is it just size? Like, is it just I've got to be in an appropriate size so I don't fly away? I'm guessing.
No, well, you legally have to be 15.
You do? Yeah.
Yep. So I wasn't legally signed off from my training until I was 15, so to speak.
Yep.
I just started a little bit early, and but it's you know, I think with aviation it's 15 to hold a pilot's license.
Is it? Yeah. Okay.
Whether it's aeroplanes or whatever it is.
Yep.
So.
And yeah, so you'd be classed as a pilot of sorts. Is that right?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I don't actually hold a private pilot's license, but I do hold a hang gliding license.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I have an ultralight license for the tow plane that we use.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the extent of my piloting skills.
Yeah, okay. It's a different thing, sort of thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's not. There's a lot more tests and things you got to learn, obviously, with the private pilot's license or flying jumbos around the sky. But
what got you into the competitive side?
I guess it's probably just in my nature. I've always been competitive in everything I did, and I think going into competitions was a really good way of learning how to fly, because you're surrounded by better pilots. You can see what's possible on any given day. To go into a competition and think, wow, we've got to fly 100 kilometres today, and think, well, I've never flown that far, or you know, I'm not sure if I can do it. I don't think the weather's good enough to do it. And then, you know, 1 or 2 people might make it to the finish line out of 50 or 60, and you go, wow, they had the skill to do it, so it was possible. I just need to improve on my skills to be that person that gets there, you know. So, it just became very competitive, and you always want to beat your friends, you know.
Yep.
So.
And did you, like from the start, obviously where you live is a bit of a hub for the sport. Did you make friends in the sport straight away?
Yeah, I was actually quite fortunate that we had a lot of the top pilots in Australia living in this area. When I started hang gliding, we probably had at least half the Australian team flying every weekend at my local flying sites, and so I was surrounded by a lot of good pilots, and it was quite a big sport back then when I learnt. It's so I had a lot of people to learn from, and it was good to go out there and ask questions and just try to improve on my skills and go from there. Yeah.
How's the sport changed over the years?
Well, there's been less and less action in the hang gliding scene. It seems that there's becoming fewer out there on the flying circuit, whether that's from people getting older and lifestyles changing, having families and kids and things like that. It's not the easiest sport to learn, and it's not, it's especially for people at young ages. It's hard for a teenager to come home and tell their parents they want to start hang gliding and go and jump off a cliff, although a lot of parents probably wouldn't mind their teenagers jumping off a cliff.
Yeah, it's probably a good time to come and ask.
My parents certainly didn't hesitate to say yes when I said I wanted to go jump off a cliff. They said, please, do you need us to drive you there?
Yeah.
So
it's just there. Wow.
But yeah, it's a time-consuming sport. You do have to have the time and a bit of money. It's not like skateboarding or surfing or something like that. You can go and spend a few $100s and buy a board, and and then everything's free after that. There is cost involved to flying, and it takes a lot of time, and a lot of people, I think, these days are just running out of time. They're spending their time doing other things.
Yep.
And that's, I think, sort of hurting our sport a little bit in the hang gliding side. And, probably about 20 years ago, they started paragliding, which is, pretty similar to hang gliding, except it's with a parachute, so to speak.
Yep.
And that's, it's much easier to learn. You can pack it into a bag and stick it in the car. You don't need to have a car with roof racks and all these things, so it's a little bit easier to get around. You can travel around the world with a lot easier. And a lot of our hang gliding instructors became paragliding instructors because they found that it was much easier for them to teach people, and they were making more money. And
yeah, right.
So, I think that's half the problem, is that we've lost a lot of instructors around the world with our sport because they've sort of gone to paragliding. And that's sort of just taken over the world as far as the free flying scene goes.
Really? So it's just changed the whole dynamic of the sport, having that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same sort of principle. You're up there, you don't have an engine, and you're trying to fly and challenge your skill, and same sort of thing. But it's easier to transport on the ground and get around and things like that. So that's definitely appealing to a lot of people. It's still, it still costs money, and you still got to pay fees and this and that to fly. But it's just a little bit easier, I think, for a lot of people to get out and go paragliding than it is hang gliding these days.
Makes sense. And I guess the other part to it is accessibility as well, isn't it? You've got to be in a location. Skateboard, you can just go out in your street and find a bowl or something. Whereas that sport, you need to be accessible to a mountain, or a good mountain too that does it, I guess, like Beachmont or something like that.
That's right. 100% correct. You can, just about anybody can go grab a skateboard and go skate in their driveway, or practice on the grass or do whatever. But yeah, with flying, you do have to generally drive somewhere to a location. You have to be a member of the club, all these things that you got to do to be able to fly. But if people just went up there and went flying, tried it, they would understand why it's all worth it.
Yeah, right.
So it's one of those things, people say, why do you fly? I said, well, maybe you should try a tandem flight, and then you'll probably understand why we fly, because it's like no other sport. I've just about done a lot of different sports in my life, but there's nothing that compares with being up there flying like an eagle.
So every day that you get up there, you still love it?
Oh yeah. It's I mean, on the weekend I took off and I climbed out and got up to the clouds and looked out and looking over the Gold Coast and the Hensdam and up to Brisbane and Stradbroke and just looking down on everybody, and flying around for a few hours up there with the eagles and the birds. And
wow,
it's a pretty spectacular sport when you see it from a bird's eye view. Just a lot of people think we're crazy. Just people want to go jump off cliffs and have a death wish, But
is it crazy?
I wouldn't say it's crazy. I mean, for me, the most dangerous part of flying is still driving there and driving home.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It's measured, isn't it? Like all the thing with the sport's measured. You have function, like you obviously practice so much to a point that landing spots, everything like that. I guess, is that right?
Oh, I mean, not always. It's obviously in my own backyard in this area. I've been flying here for 25 years, so I've landed in lots of different locations. But I mean, when I travel around the world, I go flying places I've never flown before, and it's obviously it's calculated risk and managing your skill. I mean, you need to still fly within your skill level. Generally, most accidents happen in any sport from people pushing their skill levels or trying things that they shouldn't be doing, whether it's going out and cyclone surf or skating big ramps that you never skated, or just pushing that envelope a little bit more, doing a 200-foot jump instead of a 150-foot jump on a dirt bike.
Don't want to be doing that.
We don't want to mention names, but like for me, that stuff's crazier, And for me to go jump off the cliff in the hang glider and go flying around and fly within my limits, I don't find that too risky at all.
No, I understand. Like, I'm just in awe of it because we're such land-based. Humans are such a land thing. I just watch your videos and just go, wow, like it's incredible, but so scary at the same time. But for you, you've done it. You know what's involved. It obviously isn't, but it's every time I see the videos, I'm in awe. Like I watch it and I think, mate, that's incredible to see, and the views would be awesome. So what happens at Beach One? So you take off. Do you land back up there as well, or do you land down in, say, the valley or something? How's that
Well,
work?
it depends on where what I'm trying to do for the day.
Yeah.
I up until probably a year and a half ago had the longest flight in Australia from Beach One.
Yeah, right. Where'd you go?
I took off from Beachmont and I flew to the northwest, ending up out near Muckadilla, which is out west of between Roma and Chinchilla. I mean Roma and
What, between Roma and Chinchilla? What do you got, miles?
After Roma.
Oh,
It's a big town. Having a memory blank right now, but about 50 k's past Roma.
Yeah, right.
Is where I ended up. Just short of Mitchell, I think it was.
And how long? How long does that take?
That took me about 10 and a half hours.
Oh, wow. And is that just out there?
That's just out there, yeah. No, I landed at sunset.
Nice.
Took off about 7:30 in the morning and landed out there at sunset. And I was fortunate enough to have somebody driving my car, chasing me the whole day.
Yeah.
And then did that and then turned around and had to drive 7.5 hours home again. So,
mate, that's awesome.
It was a long day out.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to find somebody that, at the spur of the moment, that say, hey, Mick, what are you doing today? You feel like driving to Sydney and back today? Just for a bit of fun.
Yeah.
So,
well, in a car, it's 1,000 k, isn't it? 500 to get to Roma is about 550 k or something, I think.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's about a 7-hour drive home again. From out there. So it definitely is a long day in the car and for somebody. And
so what happens in the air at that time? Like you've got 10 hours of just constantly searching. Like, what do you do?
Well, obviously, my skill and my mind is working all the time. I'm
Yep.
probably, we make a decision every second when we're flying. Some of them we're not really aware of, but a bit like when you're driving a car, you're constantly
Second nature type things.
adjusting the steering wheel, whatever, changing gears, things like that.
Yep.
That you're probably not concentrating on a lot, but you're still doing it. But yeah, basically, I'm trying to go as far as I can on a record flight like that.
Yep.
So I'm sort of looking at my speed over my distance, trying to figure out if my average speed that I've been doing is going to be good enough to break a record, whether the weather's going to change, whether it's going to get better, it's going to get worse. We're constantly analysing the weather. Obviously, for safety is number one priority.
Yep.
But yeah, basically trying to find these thermals, the hot air rising to get me as far as I can for the day. So a lot of people just think, well, what do you do? It's a long time to just sit up there and do
busy.
nothing. I mean, you're not doing nothing, you're up there, you're concentrating all the time. So
Yep.
surely, I mean, I do get to have a look around and
Yeah.
admire the views as well at the same time. But yeah.
Adjusting your body, obviously where you're positioned and everything like that.
Yeah.
What technology do you have up there? Like GPS, obviously you've got some sort of tracking.
Yeah, so pretty basic. We have what we call a variometer, which is tells us our altitude and also tells us whether we're going up and down. It doesn't actually find these pockets of hot air for us, but it lets us know whether we're in one or whether we're not. So it just makes a beeping sound when I'm going up and a solid tone sound when I'm coming back down to Mother Earth again. So that's the basic one, and then we have a GPS as well.
Yep.
Airspeed, things like that. Nothing too major. We don't have a glass panel in front of us with all these gauges and everything.
So that's what when you're looking at your rig, is that what you see that's coming around towards the left there?
Yeah, so I've just got it off the side there, and it's just got a little bit of information for me. It'll tell me wind speed, direction, things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing too major. I kind of just use that as a guide. I don't even look at it all the time. It's just
there.
I can hear it, so that's mostly what I'm listening to is listening, hoping for beeps, because that's taking me up.
So when you hit a thermal, do you feel it? Does it just does it hit you like go up or what? How's that happen?
You do, because generally outside of thermals, the air's going down. So you have this sensation that you're falling. Well, I shouldn't say falling, but you're coming down, and then as soon as you hit that rising air, you kind of feels like you've gone flying down a whoopsie do in a car, and you hit that part where you start to go up the other side again, and you can feel feel you starting to rise. Sometimes you can just be going down at a great rate, and then you hit air that's not going down at such a great rate, and it can almost feel like you're in a thermal, but you're still going down.
Damn.
So it's not that easy to know whether you're going up and down without the instruments. I actually flew a couple of weeks ago now and forgot my instruments, and I was up there flying and just trying to feel the thermals and whether or not I was going up and down, and it's very challenging, I can tell you, even with
experience.
Even with a lot of experience, it's hard to know, to find these pockets of air when you don't have the instruments on board.
Now, can you, as I say, I don't know this stuff. Visually, can you see a pocket? Do you see anything that represents it, say from the ground or something? You come across a bit of water or something. Is there anything that you can see from the sky that you go, okay, that's probably going to be a good spot for air rising?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, as your skill level improves, you start to recognise all these little signs that most people wouldn't even notice in a general day's life. But I guess for me, I see things and I go, oh wow, look, there's a thermal over there. A lot of people have probably seen the whirly winds on the ground, especially out west. In the drier conditions, you see the little, we call them dust devils, but they look like little tornadoes spinning around. So that's a thermal. You see the days with nice little cumulus clouds. Below each one of those clouds is the thermal.
Right.
So that's the hot air that's come up from the ground, and it's gotten to a dew point, and it's condensated and formed into a cloud.
Mm.
So some air masses we have are really dry, like especially in the wintertime. We see those beautiful crystal blue, clear skies all day long. Doesn't mean there's no thermals out there. It just means that the air mass is that dry that it doesn't. These thermals don't form in the clouds when they get to the top. So the other way of looking at it is if you just turn the Earth upside down and poured water over it. Try to imagine where the water's going to run off. So mountain peaks, things like that. Air generally is very much like water. It tries to find its path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So when the air's in the valley, it can't go through the mountain. It's got to go up and over it. So it will flow up the mountains and over the top.
So anything that's over Great Dividing Range or something like that.
So even Beachmont or any Mount Tambourine, all these
all of it,
little mountains, the air has to go up and over the mountain. It can't go through it. So these pockets of hot air will start in the valleys and they will rise up the mountain and come off the top of them. So these are things we look for in blue days when we can't see clouds and things like that. It can be as little as a car driving down a dirt road. There's the hot air has been sitting there on this in these fields for 20, 30 minutes baking in the sun, and this car drives by and disrupts this pocket of hot air, and it's enough to what we call a trigger, and it actually triggers this hot air to start rising. It could be a tractor ploughing a field.
Wow.
There's lots of little things that...
There's so much science, isn't there?
There is. Obviously, the wedge-tail eagles, they're our masters out there of the sky, so you'll see them going around in circles. They're in a thermal. So we look out for birds. We have the little, whether you call them little swifts or swallows, the little ones that you'll see flying around. They're out there eating insects. So the insects are actually getting sucked up off the ground. And when you see those little birdies out there flying, that means that generally there's a thermal there because
they're working.
They're out there working. They're having their lunch break.
Really?
So there's things out there that as pilots you see and you learn over the years on little signs of showing you the way. And that's part of the fun of learning the sport is just. I feel like it's one of those sports you can never master. You can't say, well, I'm the best at this sport and no one's ever going to be better than me because, the more you do it, the more you learn. So it's
just finding those little pieces. It's like putting a puzzle together, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's exactly like putting a puzzle or building a pyramid. You're doing it one block at a time, and or a piece at a time. And
what an incredible challenge!
It is, yeah. Eventually, you build the puzzle and the picture becomes a little clearer to you, but doesn't mean that you still know it all. So
that's wow. As you say, as I said, I don't know anything about a very limited knowledge. It's cool to hear the little details, things like that. A car driving up a road, something like that. That just blows you away. What was the distance to the one out near Mitchell and Roma?
In a straight line was 521 kilometres.
Yep.
I've had I think 4 or 5 flights from Beachmont around the 500 kilometre mark. So it seems to be about the point I get to from here. My longest flight was over in Texas in the US.
Yep.
Set out to break the world record of 700 kilometres.
Wow.
Another good friend of mine, an American, Dustin Martin. 11 hours later, we broke that world record. And I managed to do 759 kilometres. And he managed a couple of kilometres further. So he owns the world record still to this date of the longest flight in hang glider. He did, I think, 761 kilometres.
I was at that close.
Yeah. We won't go into the details, but I was busy on the GoPro trying to document the whole thing, and he ended up 100 metres higher than me at the end of the day, and that was enough to own the world record. So,
jeez.
But at the end of the day, I set out to break the world record, and I did that, and I achieved what I went there to do, and I owned the second longest flight in the world, which a lot of people go, well, how far is that? It's a little further than Brisbane Airport to Sydney Airport.
Yeah.
Without an engine.
That's huge.
So it's a long day in the sun up there in a hang glider, and I always dreamed of breaking the world record because it stood for about 10 years or so before we broke it, and it was about the distance from Gold Coast to Sydney.
Oh, really?
And every time I jumped on an aeroplane and flew down to Sydney, I'd always book the window seat so I could see how far I had to fly.
Yeah.
And I'd sit there and I'd stare out the window for the hour and a half it took on the plane, and knowing that it was going to take me a lot longer in the hang glider, but just seeing all the mountains and the terrain that you go across, I was like, wow, it's going to be a long day. And
what hours was 759 Ks? How long was that in hours?
It took me just under 11 hours.
11 hours.
Yeah, so it took off about 10 a.m. and landed at 9 p.m.
And Texas is a real home for hang gliding, isn't it?
It is. It's obviously quite dry and hot.
Yep.
It has the wind currents that we need to break a world record. Mm-hmm. It's that area, the US has pretty much held the world record and for distance flying and since I can remember. I think the original ones were set even in New Mexico back in the late 80s, early 90s. And then they moved down to Texas and started doing world records from down there. And you get the winds coming off the Gulf Coast down there below Houston, and they southerly winds push you up straight up through the Texas Panhandle and fly all day long.
Wow. When you're going for a distance record, is it just straight? Like, are you just trying to go as straight as possible?
Well, you are, but obviously we got to follow roads. We have to have a landing area. We don't have an engine, so every single glide we have to be in reach of a landing spot. That's one tricky thing in Texas. It's a lot of mesquite trees there, which I'm not sure if you know what a mesquite tree is, but they got about 2-inch long thorns on them.
Jeez.
And
you don't want to be going into those.
No, it's the last thing you want to crash into in a hang glider, I can tell you.
Yeah.
So the place is full of them for the first few hundred kilometres anyway. So obviously the hardest part is the beginning and the end, just because we're taking off early in the morning. Right. Basically, we try to go as early as we think we can be able to stay up in the sky, because we need that heat, we need that morning sun, and we need the ground to heat up before we're going to get the thermals. So we try to go as early as we can, but not too early, because we don't want to be on the ground 5 minutes later staring at a world record looking day going, geez, I was just 10 minutes too early. It's a fine line. So it's a lot of hard work in the beginning there, just because there's not a lot of landing options. And it's sort of the most critical part of the day. So it's a bit of a challenge, but once the day warms up and you get going, it's a magnificent place to fly. It's obviously it's owned a lot of the world records, so that's why we go there and try for them. But I still don't see a reason we can't do it here in Australia.
Really?
It's definitely we have days here that we can do it, but it's a matter of being there on the day and being in the right location to You know,
To
there's a lot of
maximise it, yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of research and trying to pick the right location to find. The hardest thing is to find wind that's blowing in the same direction for such a long distance.
Right.
You know, it's not. Imagine a southerly wind coming through Sydney and still having a south wind when you get to Brisbane. It's not always the case because of the way the weather patterns are. So
Yeah.
that's the hardest part, is finding that unique location where you can get the winds blowing in the same direction for a long time, and that's what Texas has. So it's definitely a good spot.
Wow. So yeah, possible here, maybe.
Very possible. The biggest problem we have here is that big centre of Australia has a lot of nothing, and that's probably one of the better locations to try one. But there's no roads and not much out there, so it just makes it difficult. Trying to find the location that you can sort of have everything: the weather, the retrieve, obviously somewhere close to a. I don't like to use the words hospital, but you never know what's going to happen. So you don't want to be way out there in the remote sticks in case something terrible does happen. So it's just sort of weighing out the risk and trying to find the right place to do it.
With your record one here in Australia that you did, the 500 and was it
521?
521. Did you have a rough guide that you thought that's about as far as I can get here? Like time in the day, everything like that? Was that obviously you identified a spot. Is that about where you thought you'd get to?
Well, listen, I mean, obviously the equipment gets better over the years. When I started out, the longest flight from Beachmont was around the 200 kilometre mark.
Was it really?
But that was 25 years ago.
Yep.
And it went up to around, I think, 220 kilometres by a 4-time Australian champion when he lived in the area. And then my father broke the record. I think he did 240 kilometres.
Yeah, right.
And then the next day I broke the record, did 250 kilometres. And it's slowly been working its way up over the years. And like I said, I've had a handful of flights around the 500 kilometre mark. So it seems to be about the distance, but it's just a lot of the times I'm here, it's not the best time of the year. I'm away competing a lot of the time. So, being here on the longest day of the year, obviously late December is probably the best time to try for these long flights. And I'm away competing around Australia at that time in other competitions. So I haven't had the longest day and potentially the best days to have a crack. But it's. I think there's on the right day 600 plus is possible out of Beachmont, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the 700 plus. It's a long ways from here. So
that's awesome. It's incredible to just think of that distance when you say you're looking out a plane of how far you're going, and as the crow flies, that's a long way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, on a 700 kilometre flight, I would hate to think of the distance I'm actually flying because it's not obviously in a straight line. So it's probably another 25% on that. So it's probably doing 800-900 kilometres on the day to fly that distance. So and I think that's half the problem at Beachmont too. Is I do quite a big arc to get to where I'm going, just with going with the winds and airspace and just to getting across the Great Dividing Range and things like that. There's only certain places we can cross. And
so
then we've got a big forest.
You've got to be aware of airspace concerns and that, obviously.
Yeah. So, we're allowed to fly in certain areas and some areas we've got to watch out for. We can only be at certain altitudes and things like that. So, we definitely, we got to obey by all the air rules, and that makes the flights even harder these days because the regulations are getting harder and harder for us. With Air Forces and Amberley Airspace, and they put another big airport out near Toowoomba now, and so there's for this particular flight from Beachmont, it's definitely a lot more challenging now to try and get out there and do it on the right day and have the permissions to go through the airspaces if I need to and things like that. So
Yep.
yeah.
You've had a long career in the sport. Many of the competitors come through like the same time, still there.
There is some, yeah. There's pilots, that were my age when I started in the competition scene,
Yep.
and they're still flying.
Still into it, yeah.
There's guys I know that fly as much as I do, and they're 70 years old,
That's awesome.
and they still compete around the world. And
Yep.
but there's not a lot that really started with me that are still flying, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of them have had families and things like that over the years that have slowed them up or stopped them from travelling as much as they'd like, or
Yep.
they compete more locally or just in Australia. But yeah, there's very few that actually travel around the world doing it as a job.
So your first event was in Australia?
It was down in Victoria, down at Mount Buffalo.
How'd you go?
Whew, that was a long time ago now.
Where's Mount Buffalo in Vic?
Northeastern Victoria, right on the border.
Okay. Yep.
Down near Albury, Wodonga
Yep.
area.
Yep.
I really don't know, to be honest.
Don't know. Were you addicted to the competition part from the start though? When you got into doing that first one, did it accelerate pretty quickly?
It did, yeah. Obviously, as I said earlier, it's competitions just sort of opened my eyes onto what was actually possible.
Yeah.
I'd normally, you stand up there and you go, okay, well, I know it's flyable, but how far can I fly today? And you might fly 10 kilometres and go, wow, that was a great flight.
Mm.
And then find out that others went 100 kilometres that day, and you go, oh, geez, they went 10 times as far as I did. What did they do different to me, So,
Yep.
it was just a real eye-opener, I guess, to realise that I had so much more to learn. And
So from starting there, how long did it take to, like you've travelled the world now for lots of years, how long did it take to get to a point where you're travelling around everywhere doing it?
I was working in the film industry here locally when I was 21, a while ago now. And I got a phone call from one of the hang gliding companies here in Australia called Moyes Gliders, and they were Bill Moyes. A lot of people might know the name of. He was one of the pioneers of the sport back in the day, and he started out water skiing and started building these flat kites that would get them off the water and get them flying for a little bit, and eventually he started jumping off a mountain. So yeah, they were sort of one of the biggest hang gliding manufacturers here in Australia, and they called me up one day while I was halfway through a film shoot and said, "Oh, we want to sponsor you to travel around the world and fly our hang gliders." And that was obviously a dream of mine. That's what I wanted to do from the day I started hang gliding. So kind of had to go to my bosses in the film industry and tell them a little situation, because they said there's only one catch. You got to leave home tomorrow. So
Wow.
I didn't get much time to think about it, and I went to the bosses, and fortunately I had very nice bosses at the time, and they both looked at me and said, "Well, what are you still doing standing here?" They said, "We know that's your dream and that's your passion, and if it doesn't work out, give us a call and you'll have a job when you come back." So I was pretty lucky as a young guy to have people like that pushed me, gave me the opportunities to do what I wanted to do, and yeah, basically that was 20 years ago now. So just under 20 years ago, I started traveling the world and doing it for a full-time job.
And you've still got the relationship with Moyes, obviously, as well.
I do, yeah. No, I still fly for them and still travel the world and competing for them and trying to make the hang gliders look good. And
how many manufacturers? Like, there's obviously heaps of manufacturers, but how many in the top field, like you are, is there? Like, there's obviously Moyes. What others are there?
There's only about 4 manufacturers worldwide.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
There used to be another one here in Australia called Airborne.
Right.
They were sort of Moyes' main rival in this country anyway.
Yep.
Just because a lot of people want to buy local stuff.
Yep.
They actually make motorised hang gliders as well, which are ones that tow us into the sky too.
Yep.
And they sort of probably about 10 years ago stopped in the competition side of making hang gliders.
Yep.
They still make the beginner gliders and things like that for people. So yeah, they're not really high up on the list anymore.
Yep.
They sort of went to other things. And then there's a company in the US called Willswing.
Mm-hmm.
They're quite a big company as well. And then there's Icaro, which is in Italy.
Yep.
They have a lot of good pilots there, and their gliders have won the last handful of world championships.
Really?
So it's a great product. It's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one in the Ukraine called Eros, and that's pretty much it. So it's
right. Pretty scattered, like manufacturing wise, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've only ever flown a Moyes hang glider in my life. So from day one.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm a loyal ambassador, I guess.
100%.
But at the end of the day, it's not really what you're flying. It's just about being up there and enjoying it. And all the gliders today are pretty similar in performance and things like that. So it's not a huge difference. Every now and again, a manufacturer will come out with something that might be just that little bit better that everybody wants to get, and then a lot of people will catch up to that. So it doesn't take too long in a small industry. So
definitely. Is there like a hub for the sport? Like obviously Texas has got really good weather for it, but you're saying Italy has had some champions and obviously out of their suits, out of their equipment. Is there like a hub for the sport, like where more people do it or anything?
Not really. I mean,
pretty scattered as well.
Yeah, there's hang glider pilots all over the world and lots of different countries. Obviously, US and places like that have a bigger population have more pilots. Australia has, I think, I'm not sure how many hang glider pilots we got now, but it was around 5,000 or 6,000 with the paragliders. Not sure what the percentage is, probably a bit. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is now, but probably 1,000 hang glider pilots in that 5,000 right now.
Yep.
And US is in the 10 to 15,000 range, and then obviously all throughout Europe, there's a lot.
Population determines a lot of things, doesn't it?
Brazil's also very big. They have a lot of pilots there. But yeah, population is it's definitely the key to have more pilots.
So is that the start of the season, Brazil? Because I think when I caught up with you on that party and that you're heading off to Brazil not long after, is that like where it starts for a season or what happens there?
Well, to be honest, most pilots just compete in their own country. There's not a lot that actually travel because it's generally a hobby for most people.
Okay. Yep.
And a lot of them like to do a competition or two on their time off from work or whatever it is.
Yep.
Go fly with their friends and try to beat them and things like that. But yeah, there's very few that actually travel the world competing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have a World Championships, which takes place every 2 years, and it gets moved around. It gets moved around the world.
Yep.
So the last one was in Italy.
Yep.
The next one's supposed to be in Macedonia next year.
Wow.
Before that, we had one here in Australia. I've been in the US, Mexico. So sort of each country just puts in a bid if they want to host a World Championships, and so it travels around. And generally, that competition, you have to be. It's the top 6 pilots from each country that are allowed to compete in it.
Right.
So most people just try to do competitions in their own country to make the team.
Yep.
So that they can go to the World Championships and compete.
Yep.
So yeah, probably 98% of pilots will fly in their local countries and just try to do what they need to do to be on the Australian team, or
once every 2 years,
and then go and compete in the big championships overseas. So like I said, it's a hobby for most people. I'm one of probably 3 or 4 in the world that get to do it as a full-time job. All the other ones either work in a hang gliding manufacturing company, designer or things like that work and breathe hang gliding. So they'll work in the factory building gliders, designing them, and then fly here and there to represent the company, and their products. So I guess I was one of the lucky ones from a young age to be able to be that person that got to do that and still do it.
It's pretty incredible to be able to do it. To be able to do a sport you love and, travel around for a long time and do it.
Well, it is, and obviously for me, I needed sponsors for that to happen, and I was tell you another good story. When Red Bull first came out to Australia, I always thought when I first saw their ads, about Red Bull gives you wings, and I just thought, that'd be the perfect sponsor, for a hang glider pilot, just to be sponsored by Red Bull. And I always said that to my family, and I got a younger sister who's 9 years younger than me, and I was probably 21 at the time, and my sister was 13, 14, and I came home one day and had an email from Red Bull, and it's sort of somewhere in the line stated that they'd been watching me and seen me progressing through the sport, and I think I'd just become Australian champion at the time, and they wanted to sponsor me. It took me about 6 to 8 hours to respond to the email, because I didn't really know what to respond back, because I was a bit nervous, because it was a bit of a dream of mine, and responded back and had a few emails here and there back and forth, and then it just kept becoming a little bit of a every night at dinner table, have you heard from Red Bull? It's like, oh yeah, I have. And it clicked to me that it was a Red Bull Hotmail account.
Oh no.
And my sister had set up a fake Red Bull account through Hotmail and had been emailing me back and forwards as a bit of a practical joke.
Oh no.
And the whole family was in on it, and obviously I wasn't.
What a stitch up.
Yeah, so it was a pretty good stitch up. I do have to give her that one.
That's just brutal.
Yeah, so...
Because you would have, that first email, you would have sat there, type the start, delete. Type the start, delete for 8
exactly,
hours.
Like I said, it took me about 6 to 8 hours to actually send the email. I don't know how many times I rewrote it. And then everyone that came back, I think it was 3 or 4 correspondents I had.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was corresponding with my 13-year-old sister.
That's cruel.
That was pretty cruel. And it's probably a couple of years later, I was overseas, and I called home, and my mum said, "Oh, you'll never believe who called today, Red Bull." And I was like, yeah, we've been through this one already.
You got me once.
You've already got me once. I'm not falling for it. No, she was laughing. She's like, no, they want you to do this event. It's a 2-kilometre ocean swim and a 50-kilometre mountain bike ride, and hang glide down to the beach in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and then a 24-kilometre run. And she started laughing. She's like, I don't think you're going to be able to do all that, because swimming and mountain biking, all that wasn't my forte, I just like to jump off cliffs and lay around all day,
Right.
So anyway, she's like, no, you've got to call them, and I was like, oh, okay. So I eventually called, and it actually was Red Bull. But she didn't quite have the story straight. I just had to do the hang gliding part.
Okay.
And they were finding the best athlete in each sport from every country to compete in this amazing event called Giants of Rio in Brazil.
Wow.
And we had Kai Hurst doing the ocean swim. We had a guy from Tasmania who was a mountain bike champion at the time, Sid Tabalay.
Mm-hmm.
And then Courtney Atkinson, who was a triathlete here on the Gold Coast.
Yep.
A lot of people might know. He did the running, and I did the hang gliding part. So Team Team Australia went over there with 70. I think 40 countries, and I think Brazil had 30 teams in it because they were the host.
What year was this? Do you remember?
2004.
Wow. That's an early relationship with Red Bull, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't a sponsorship thing. It was just they wanted me to go do this event for them, and it was all expenses paid trip to Rio de Janeiro for 5 days. To go do something that I love.
It's like the extreme sport Olympics too.
It was. So I was like, yeah, sign me up, I'll do that.
Yep.
And it's still, to this date, one of the best events I've ever done in my life.
Really?
Just the opening part of it, we were sitting in a room and there was 350 athletes, and you looked around the room and all of them were the best of their sports in their country.
Yep.
So you're just surrounded by so much talent.
Mm.
It was just an incredible few days there in Rio with, the best athletes from around the world in those 4 different sports.
And that they called home. Like, that was just a phone call.
Yeah.
That's how it started.
That's how it started. And then Australia ended up winning the event.
Oh, really?
So we led from start till finish.
Yep.
And after that, Red Bull said, we want to keep you on board and sponsor you as an athlete.
For yourself?
For myself.
Yeah.
So, that's my relationship started in 2004 with Red Bull. And, so I've been pretty fortunate to have them backing me the whole time. I was with them for, just finished up at the end of 2018 with them. So I did 14 years with Red Bull.
That's a long
Yeah,
relationship.
there's only a couple of other athletes that have outlasted my time at Red Bull, Mick Fanning being one of them. And
really? Is he longer?
Yeah, he was. I think he started the year or two before me, and he's still with them. So he'd be going on 17 odd years, I think.
Yep.
There's not too many that have lasted that long. And
globally,
that's right. Not just in Australia, but around the world. There's, but I guess each sport's different. A lot of sports, you get 2 or 3 years at your peak, and that's you. So. I'm just fortunate that hang gliding is not one of those sports that it's really age dependent and things like that. I'm still at the top of my game, and nothing's changed really. It's just So I was, some of the videos you said you've seen of me flying, a lot of those things were projects that I did with Red Bull. The Morning Glory Cloud is probably something that you've seen.
I want to touch on that. Yeah.
And
that's North Queensland? That
is, up in the Cape, up in a small town called Burketown.
Yeah.
So that was one project I did with Red Bull, the first one I did, and it was a huge project, and it was a dream of mine from a young kid when I learned to hang glide. I had a couple friends that had been up there and were one of the first ones to fly this weather phenomena that we call the Morning Glory, which is like a roll cloud that comes traveling through the sky at speeds of 60 kilometers per hour, and it's literally like a giant wave up in the sky that you can surf in a hang glider.
Wow.
And I just remember these guys telling me their stories of flying it, and this was back in the 90s when they didn't have very good camera equipment and things like that, and they used to take the old 35mm camera, little roll of film up there with them and hope that they got some good shots on their little $20 cameras, and the best they got was a couple selfie shots you could see of just this big grin in the foreground and this little wide elusive cloud stretching as far as you could see, and I could just see it in their eyes that it was by far the best thing they'd ever done in their life, and when Red Bull approached me and said, well, what's something that you just want to do with your sport and something you've dreamed of, I was like, this is it, because I can tell it's something that I'm never going to forget, So, we worked on that project and went up there and managed after 2 years to capture this Morning Glory footage. And
it's incredible.
We obviously, with the help of Red Bull, we had the best camera crew in the world there, and they flew directors over from New York and camera guys from Canada, and they just got the best from around the world. And I don't know, they probably spent around $500,000 on that project, but the footage is just insane. And it's, I still do interviews 10 years later for that one flight, because it's people see it and just go, wow, that's just mind blowing. And to be able to capture that, like they did with the amazing footage, was obviously what I was able to sell them on the project, because I said, if we get this cloud and you get the footage of it, it's just going to be mind blowing to everybody, and I just knew that by talking to my friends and seeing it in their eyes,
seeing their face,
and when I look back at the interviews that they did with me after flying it the next day and stuff, you can still see it, just like. Yeah, that was exactly the same look they had when I spoke to them about it.
So cool, hey?
So obviously the relationship I had with Red Bull over the years has allowed me to do amazing things with the sport too, and allowed me to travel and do what I love along with Moyes. So I've been pretty fortunate there.
How does a project start with Red Bull? Say for that one, did they literally come to you and say what's the craziest, not the craziest thing, but what's something you want to do? Is that what happens?
As an athlete with Red Bull, we have to give them a couple of ideas every year on something that we'd love to do.
Wow.
And, we, in a detailed report, we'll sort of write down what it is and how we think we can go about it, and what we, whether it's a world record or whether it's just something that's going to be super cool that nobody's ever done before. They're obviously looking for things that stand out and that are unique. If they like the idea, then they present it to the international board. Because a lot of these projects require international funding through Red Bull. And then if they can get it through the board and the international headquarters, generally it's a go. So it's sort of just coming up with these different ideas and projects that, whether it might be, depending on the sports, just something that's just mind-blowing, or whether it's achieving a world record or something that they can, leverage and get good media out of and help us athletes, live a dream and do what we want to do. So they've been tremendous, in regards to that over the years.
It's propelled all the sports that I love, like having the energy drinks, Red Bull, and that come into it. The content that you see coming out of it is the best generated content in the world.
It is, yeah. They
by far.
Obviously they're very good at picking and choosing the projects that they do and what they put out there on the media. And like you said, I mean, it's some of the footage from the different sports that they cover around the world is just. You just look at it, whether it's Travis Rice going down on a freaking snowboard down in Canada and doing massive jumps or drops, and just going, wow, there's no way you'd strap me onto that snowboard and have me doing that,
I wouldn't do what you do. I wouldn't do what he does. But,
we all wouldn't do what someone else does.
So was that a 2-year project?
It was. The first year we went up there, we did sort of a reconnaissance trip. So with a pretty small crew, just to see what was going to be needed 100% for the major project. We spent 2 weeks up there. I don't know if a lot of people know Burketown. It's one of the great fishing spot for barramundi. It's the capital in Australia for barramundi fishing.
Is it really?
That's what they say.
Yeah.
It's a town of 200 people, and it's probably the most isolated town in Australia. So it's obviously doing a project, flying something like the Morning Glory Cloud that was unpredictable. Didn't know what was going to happen to me. There was a lot of things that when you're with a company like Red Bull that you got to tick a lot of boxes for safety. You need helicopters, we need this, we need that. Not only just being in the air, but, 20-foot long crocodiles in that area too. So just even when I hit the ground, I had to have sort of, strategy plans and things like that. So it was a big project. And we went up there for 2 weeks the first time. We saw a few Morning Glory clouds. None of them actually made it to the land. Only 1 in 4 actually come in from the sea. So we spent 2 weeks up there and never got to fly one. And then they kind of went back to the drawing board again because we'd already spent a fair bit of money. And they said, "Are you sure this thing even exists?" I said, "It exists. But the reason it's, what it is because it is rare and it's unpredictable." And so they said, "All right, if you still keen, we'll go ahead and do it." And we got a Cineflex camera over from New Zealand because there wasn't even one in this country. So yeah, it was a lot of money, and the biggest probably pressure during the event was, the project was waking up every morning, going out the salt flats in the dark, setting all the equipment up, and waiting for the sun to come up to see if there was this cloud coming for me, and seeing blue skies, and seeing everyone's face look at me going, "Are you sure this thing exists?" Because I don't want to throw money terms out there, but it was, the standby cost for every day we were up there was quite expensive with the crew we had and the helicopters and Cineflex camera. I think the camera was $5,000 a day
just for hire.
Just for hire, the camera. So
you start to add it up. You know, there's a lot of money there.
There was a lot of money there every day, and I think it was the 5th day that this cloud came rolling in, and it was. There was a lot of joy that night. We finally got to have a drink, and
I could imagine the relief.
The relief of knowing that we got the footage that and the flight that I had always dreamed of. So
how did they capture that? Were they in a chopper? Some of the footage, or how do they capture?
Yeah, so we had the chopper with the Cineflex camera.
Yeah.
Which that camera is mind blowing of what it can do.
Yeah.
You can be 5 kilometers away from that thing and they can see what you had for breakfast, So it's a pretty amazing camera, which is good because hang gliders and helicopters don't really mix that well in the same air. The downdraft that the helicopter puts out, I don't really want that to be anywhere close to me. So
very cool.
It was important to have a good camera on board.
So they can keep a good distance.
So they could keep a good distance away from me. It was just one thing I didn't want to have to try and deal with while I was trying to fly this unpredictable wave in the sky. It was
is this your equivalent to big wave surf, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Basically. It was, it's a 2,000-foot wave up in the sky, So
damn, it's awesome.
And then we had a stills photographer up in the ultralight, the Dragonfly, that towed me into the sky. And I had another cameraman up in another aircraft as well. Because
you wouldn't want it captured any differently.
No. Plus, we had a whole camera crew on the ground capturing the ground stuff. So it was there was 2 camera teams. I think 13 crew in total.
Yeah, right.
For me to go have a bit of fun.
Geez, how do you deal with that pressure? Like, that must be a lot of pressure.
I was... it was a lot of pressure. Like I said, it was... I really felt it every morning when the sun came up and the cloud wasn't there, and everyone would sort of stand there and look at me, and I got to call the office now and tell them that it didn't happen again today. It's going to be another day. And that's kind of when I felt the pressure. But you gotta live your dreams and just go to bed that night and dream about waking up and seeing that cloud again in the morning, and sure enough, it turned up. So
at day 5, that was obviously the perfect. You couldn't want it any better, I'm guessing.
No, I mean, it adds to the story, being up there and trying to fill in the time, waiting for this thing to appear, and and then it finally happening. It was, it was pretty much a production's perfect timeline. But it was totally unpredictable at the same time. So, but it worked out. It worked out great. We'd planned on 2 weeks up there.
Okay. Yep.
And after the 5th day, we got it, and then the very next day, I got another one. So we got.
So you got it back up.
We got it, and that was even scarier than the first one. So
why? Was it bigger, or was it just?
So each cloud is different, depending on the weather and the way it forms. And the second one went all the way to the ground. So it was all foggy in the morning, and we almost didn't get it because the aircraft couldn't take off because of the fog. And just literally like moments before the cloud got to me, there was a bit of a break, and the aircraft was able to fly out from the airport, land where I was on the salt flats. I was just in time to hook onto the tow rope, and we literally took off probably, less than 500 meters before the cloud got to us.
Yeah.
And we took off into the bottom of this thing, and we did a U-turn straight away because it was coming at us at 50 k's an hour. And I kind of got covered in a little bit of cloud. I'd like to say it wasn't illegal, but it was probably slightly illegal. Yeah. And I kind of popped out, and I kind of looked behind me, and it was like I just towed into literally a 2,500 foot wave. It was just this big wall of white, like right behind me, all the way up to about 2,500 feet. And I looked over my shoulder and just went, fuck, that is the biggest wave I've seen in my life. And I couldn't see the ground. So that's pretty much, as a hang glider pilot, it's your worst nightmare, not being able to see what you're flying over, because we don't have an engine, and we need to be able to see our landing field.
Yeah.
And it stayed like that for about an hour. So I actually got to the top of this cloud, and I released from the ultralight, and soon discovered that there wasn't that much lift in front of it. So the speed I had to fly, I had to stay in front of this wave cloud, basically. Yeah. Didn't leave me much as far as the updrafts went. So I was basically just maintaining the whole time, flying along the front of this, bit like sort of tethering on the top of a breaking wave, just waiting to go over the falls the whole time, just...
Wow.
So, it took about an hour before I could see the ground again, and that was a pretty scary hour.
Gives me chills just thinking about it now.
Yeah, it still gives me chills because I can close my eyes and put myself right back in that same spot again, just with the memory. So it's one of those things that, people say, what's the scariest thing you've ever done in hang gliding? That was probably that day.
That's it. Wow.
Just because it lasted so long, and, a lot of our scary moments are 10, 20, 30 seconds of, oh shit, why did I do that sort of thing, to that was
an hour
of it going, oh my God. And
especially when you can't see anything.
And on that particular day, there was, I think, 10 or 11 clouds lined up. So they came in and sats like a cyclone swell that day. And the helicopter got a shot from about 10,000 feet, and you could just see these lines of clouds. And, obviously I was just this little speck on this cloud.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a...
You realise how small you are, hey?
You do, yeah. I look back on that footage, and you just see this little dot, and, or they zoom in on me, and then they zoom out, and I just disappear, I just turn into this little speck, and this cloud just goes as far as you can see. I mean, the longest one, they think it records about 1,000 kilometres long, which is... well, Brisbane to Sydney, it's one cloud front just moving through, so it's pretty incredible to see it with your own eyes, and to be up there in the hang glider flying it. And I mean, these, I told you that the crew came from all around the world, and all these guys were the best at what they do, in action sports, documentaries and things like that. And they've done, I mean, just talking to them, they've done some amazing shoots over their lifetime, and every single one of them said it was in their top 3 best things that they've ever experienced.
Really?
Even the ones that were just on the ground and got to watch it go by, standing there. But the ones that actually got to be up in one of the aircraft flying and filming me, that was one of the best things.
Special day.
It was a very special day for everybody, not just me. So,
That's, it doesn't get much bigger than that, I guess.
No, that was, I mean, and I guess for years after that project, Red Bull kept saying, well, what's the next big project? Because that one was...
You nailed it.
It was like... It still is, I think, the biggest project that Red Bull's ever done in this country.
Wow.
And they always wanted, what's the next Morning Glory? What's,
Yeah.
Like, what can you do next that's gonna even top that one, And it was hard to find another project that could beat that, because it was so unique, and special that and the footage was just
Yeah, they just nailed it.
they just nailed it.
Yeah.
So I did do one more project with them about 5-6 years ago down in the Great Australian Bight.
All right, we'll scratch this off what I've written down. I was going to ask you.
And that was I went down to try and break 3 world records.
Yep.
They were speed records
Mm-hmm.
over an out and return distance. So
Yep.
I wanted to fly 50 kilometres out and 50 kilometres back, making it a 100 kilometre out and return.
Yeah.
And it was, the speed record for these flights. So I was trying for the 1, the 2 and 300 kilometre out and return speed records.
Yep.
And they were already set in this location probably 15 years earlier.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
A couple of the top pilots, one of them was multiple world champion.
Yep.
They were returning from a competition in Western Australia and decided to drive back, and because they'd heard about this place and they wanted to fly it, and they went and set a couple of 2 or 3 world records there.
Yep.
And I knew with the things had changed with equipment and things had gotten better, and that it would be pretty good odds for me to go down there and have a good attempt at breaking a few of these world records with Red Bull. And it was another challenging project, because I'm flying along the Great Australian Bight, and it's basically a 300-foot sheer cliff into sharky waters below.
Probably our most shark-infested waters.
Yeah. People say, what's this Great Australian Bight? And they say it's where the shark took a bite out of Australia, and
Pretty much.
that's kind of what it looks like.
Pretty crazy place. So was this a project you approached them for as well?
It was, like I said,
Yep.
it was...
Same deal?
Same deal. They just... Every year I kept trying to come up with different projects.
Yep.
And this is one that made it through the books.
Yep.
I went down there, had the full-on crew again because of what I was doing. I trained for 3 months here on the Gold Coast with a fellow Ironman, Wes Berg. He did a lot of training with me because it was something different from the day in, day out of hang gliding that I normally do. Whereas I was going to be flying at high speeds for a long period of time.
Yep.
So I sort of did a lot of training for that, to try and, normally in a competition day I would spend 10 minutes of the day flying at high speed, which is the final glide into the finish point.
Yep.
Whereas this was going to be, potentially hours.
Trying to get fast as possible.
Trying to fly at high speed down a cliff in strong winds. And then I had the water training as well, because I didn't have a lot of options. If I committed to the project, one of my landing options was the water.
Yuck.
Which, is not ideal in a hang glider when you're all strapped in and in a cocoon type thing in a harness. And
Yep.
so I did a fair bit of training in the Miami pool with my equipment.
Yeah, right.
Jumping in. And
trying to release and that.
trying to get out of the harness and all that stuff under the water. And I was quite amazed on, probably the first time I did it, I probably would have drowned.
Really?
Because I didn't get out.
Yep.
Like, I had to come up for air before I could, get out, because and then, after weeks of that, I was out of the harness and swimming 20 metres down the pool under the water. So things like that I had to do for the project. In case of emergency, obviously. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but
That's just that.
it was just that fact that I was going to be flying over the water and for such a long period of time. And and we once again they went out and got the best crew available. I had a diver on board in the helicopter. I said, "How did you get the job?" He says, "I'm the fastest swimmer in Australia."
Wow.
Rescue swimmer. I said, "Well, that's gives me some."
So you get the elite of the elite when you're a Red Bull, don't you?
Well, yeah, especially for projects like this.
Yeah.
Obviously,
The
safety's their number one.
Yep.
The project's number two, and
Yep.
and having it all work out at the end is.
So how
is
many
all a
crew?
bonus.
How many crew was out there for that?
Whew.
Because you had your family there. for one
I
thing.
did. My parents came down to visit. Also, my hang gliding sponsor, Moyes, came down as well.
Yeah. Was it? Is it UCLA? Is that how it's
UCLA,
pronounced? That's
yep.
where you based yourself, I'm guessing, for the week.
It is,
or-
yeah. It's just a roadhouse on the
Is that it?
West Australian, South Australian border. It's about 400 kilometres from any town, either way. And I think it's a population of 35 people.
Wow,
So it's
it's a pretty small place.
Pretty remote, yeah.
So he's probably doubled it.
Yeah,
when you come
we
into town.
definitely brought a few people to town. I think we had around 10 or so there. So we had the chopper pilot, we had camera crew, we had the rescue diver.
And you got weather support too, didn't you? Like you had weather people or something there?
We did, yeah. We had someone from Ubimat, which is actually a weather company that Red Bull started up.
Was it part of a Red Bull thing?
It was, yeah. They started it for their Formula One race cars.
Really?
And V8s and stuff. So it was a weather company that they founded, and one of those things too. They got the best of the best from everyone around the world and put them all in one room and started a weather company up so that they could have the best weather predictions for the
races.
Do
they still have it? Do you know?
I don't know. Actually, I really don't know. I would imagine they do.
Yeah.
Haven't heard much. I thought they were sort of going to become a bit more, known throughout the country and stuff. Yeah. But I went down to their office in Melbourne. It's just a small office, and they just had the best of the best from all around the world, and they were all sitting there looking at computers and crunching the data. So I had the help from them as well. Yeah. But I pretty much knew what I needed. But it was nice to have a bit of backup. They weren't actually on location. They were just remote. So I would get an email every morning from them with their predictions on what they thought was going to happen and the predictions for the next few days. So it was good to have a company like that with great minds. Obviously, they're analysing the weather and telling me what their thoughts were as well. So like I said, not all the crew were on site. I had some remote as well. Help for the project. But unfortunately, I didn't get great weather down there, and it all came down to one day that was actually flyable, and it wasn't the perfect day, but I started bright and early because I had this dream that possibly I could do multiple world records on the one day. My intention was to do one record a day over a couple of weeks while we were down there.
Yeah, right.
Hoping for a few days of good weather. And we were coming to the end of the time, and it was just one day that I had a chance of doing the record. So I decided to go for the 300 kilometre flight. Go for the big one because it seemed, even though it was the longest flight, it seemed like the easiest one for me to try and break speed-wise. So obviously, we wanted to come back with a world record after putting all the money into it and time and training. And I took off on the 300 kilometre flight, and it got pretty intense about halfway through. The wind, I'd actually outrun the wind because I started so early, and I was getting very close to the water and potentially doing the nightmare that I trained for. Managed to stay up, and I got to the turning point, which was the halfway point where I turned around and started coming back, and then I flew back into the weather front, so it got windier again, and it was happy days. 5 hours later, I made it back home.
So 300 Ks in 5 hours?
Yeah, 5 hours, 18 minutes, I think.
And a world record?
And a world record, It smashed the previous world record.
Yep.
Landed, did a couple of interviews, had a little bite to eat.
Yep.
Smashed down a can of Red Bull and decided to take off and try for another world record. And I was running out of time, so I just thought I'd do the 100 kilometre flight and took off on the 100 kilometre flight. And a little over an hour later, I think an hour and 7 minutes, I came back, so I averaged over 90 kilometres an hour
That's so fast.
When the previous record was about 70 k's an hour.
Yep.
So, yeah, I managed 2 world records in the one day. Like I said, it was about 6.5 hours of flying time, and
Yep.
I was pretty exhausted. But as you can imagine, it was a pretty lively little roadhouse in Eucla on that night.
Turned it on.
Yeah, it's something about breaking 2 world records in one day is not something that anyone else has ever done before, and
Incredible.
it's probably something I'll never see again in my career. So it was there was definitely a lot of celebrations to go around.
Have they are they still current, the records?
They are.
They're still there. Yeah.
They're the only 2 that I still got.
Is it really?
Yeah, I've broken 4 world records, and
Yep.
they're the only 2 that still stand. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're going away in a hurry, because it's such a unique location for that flight that
Yep.
the only way they're going to go away is if somebody goes back to that location and beats what I did.
Has a better day or something like that.
Better day, better equipment maybe, if over the years things change again. But, having that support that Red Bull gave me with the helicopter and the diver and all this stuff allowed me to push the limits more than, the people that originally set the world records there, because they would have been in the middle of nowhere trying to maintain their heights and stay as high as they can, to not flying down at cliff level height, racing as fast as they could to break, there was no world record really at the time when they did it, so they didn't have any huge incentive to be pushed as far as exactly. But I think I really don't see those world records going away in a hurry.
What about the distance one? Do you reckon that's the 762 that he got?
Yeah.
Is that achievable?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think, it wasn't a fantastic day.
Right, yeah.
Unfortunately, you need so many things to line up. You need wind, you need some good conditions. It wasn't, it wasn't the best day I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of things that were good, like, because of all the different things you need. They weren't 10 out of 10s, but they were 7 out of 10 on all the boxes, which is important. Sometimes you can have 10 out of 10 on 3 out of 5 of the boxes, but that's not going to do it either. So, there's definitely going to be days out there. I think we could do another 100 Ks on what's there now, especially with the equipment we got these days. That was back in 2012, so things have gotten a little bit better again, and I believe over 800 is possible.
Yeah,
and it hasn't slipped my mind. I did go back a few years ago with Red Bull in the USA, actually, and did a project over there on attempting the world record, and they came out, and it was actually on the Weather Channel in the US. They sort of picked it up and put it on their thing, and it's a great documentary for people to watch. It's called The Wind Rider, and it basically really explains what we do and how we try to find these thermals and fly long distance. And they did an amazing job at sort of covering that and showing it to people. And sort of. I didn't unfortunately have any good weather while I was there with the crew, but I did a 300 kilometre flight one day, 300 something kilometre, and they watched me take off, and they were there for when I landed. They've been chasing me all day in the car, 6 or 7 hours, and just even the look on their faces. They've been driving all day, watching me and tracking me, and to watch me land, that far. 6-7 hours later, a couple hundred miles away from where I started, they were all just like, wow, that's
incredible.
That's incredible, like, but yeah, like I said, I didn't get any world records that day, but they did a good job of showing what I'm out there trying to achieve. And
was that a Red Bull crew, or was that the Weather Channel crew that was behind? Red Bull Project, Weather Channel crew?
It was
or both?
A bit of both. So it was mostly Red Bull.
Yeah, right.
And they had 2 or 3 people from the Weather Channel that were doing the documentary type stuff. So They were doing their little show on the side, basically.
Yep.
And had access to all the Red Bull footage.
Yeah. Okay.
So the Red Bull guys still, like they do, they put the top guys out there, the camera crew, and they were the ones out getting all the shots and capturing the moments, while the Weather Channel guys were filming ants on the side of the road and talking about Texas and how dry it is and why it's good for what I'm doing and things like that. So
getting that real detail.
Yeah, so they kind of, the crews sort of film different things, but it was pretty interesting to see, because I was a little bit concerned on how it was going to turn out, listening to the Weather Channel do their little interviews and stuff. I was like, ooh,
how's this go?
How's this going to work, But yeah, it turned out really good. So even Red Bull they were a bit concerned at the time throughout the project, just thinking, this could have been a waste of time. But it got shown on the Weather Channel, as a 48-minute long documentary, and it got aired many, many times over there in the US. And Red Bull was very impressed with how it turned out, and it's kind of a perfect thing for them, because it's a third party showing off their product. It wasn't Red Bull pushing
push it. Yep.
It was a Weather Channel, which is, it certainly fits into our sport, because weather is what we depend on.
Major part.
So it's a huge major part of our sport, and to have them go out and do a documentary on someone like me trying to break a world record was, I think, entertaining for a lot of viewers. A lot of viewers didn't really, thought that they shouldn't have been involved with Red Bull and blah, blah, blah. Right. But you're always going to have haters out there,
For sure, mate.
But no, a lot of people saw it and just really loved it. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
You were saying you did film production stuff here before, like the day before you got the call. What were you doing?
I had a good friend that used to work in the film industry. He was a unit production manager.
Okay, yeah.
For a lot of the films here on the Gold Coast.
Yep.
And I was always, before I was with Red Bull, Moyes was sort of looking after me a little bit, and I would sort of make money and go and spend it and come back and find work to fill in with, whether it was building or this and that, just different jobs. And one of the guys said, we need a few fill-ins. I'm looking for a few guys to just come in and help out for a few days. It was a film that was being made down at SeaWorld at the time. And he said, would you be interested? And I said, yeah, I'd love to come down for a few days and check it out, And so I sort of just went down to help him. The unit guys, they basically look after all the caravans, all the stuff. They set up the locations and clean the toilets and empty the bins and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I did that for a few days, and he said, would you like to stay for the rest of the shoot? And I said, yeah, sure. So I kind of got in that way, and I kind of worked my way up through different jobs, always somewhat attached to the unit guys, but then I got into production assistant. I was cast driver, so I used to go and pick up all the actors from their hotels and bring them to the location and look after them. Mm-hmm. Did a little bit of third, fourth assistant directing type stuff, but basically most of my job was to keep everybody happy all day on location on the sets, and just do whatever needed to be done. And yeah, I did a lot with the actors. I looked after Steve Irwin for a while on the Crocodile Hunter.
Really?
He was good fun.
Good guy?
Good guy, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, we did the Croc Hunter, did a few different films around the area, and got to meet a lot of the famous actors. And I really didn't. Growing up as a skateboarder and having a half pipe in my backyard, I never really watched TV very much. So I didn't really know any of them. Like, everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're working with so and so." I'd be like, "Oh, what's he do?" "Oh, he's off this TV show or that."
Yeah.
They're on Neighbours or Home and Away. And I was like, okay, good for them. Like
people are people.
People are people, exactly. So I had a really good relationship with all the actors because I wasn't that person that was always like, oh, I've got a T-shirt here. Do you think you could sign this for my grandma? Or, whatever it was.
Yep.
It was just, they always just wanted to talk to me about hang gliding because they found that much more fascinating than anything else, So, I built a good relationship up. I did a lot with David Wenham, even to the point where a lot of these guys would call me up and say, oh, I'm flying back in on Sunday night, Gold Coast Airport. I know you're not working, but I don't really want to catch a taxi. Can you come and pick me up and I'll pay you to take me to the hotel and, just sort of private deals and things like that. And some of them say, oh, I'm going home to Sydney for the weekend. Here's the keys to my unit, in Surfers Paradise. It's all yours. And 20-year-old boy was like, yeah, sounds great. I'll take that. Thanks.
Coming down from Beachmont to Surfers.
Exactly. Got to get an apartment for the weekend. So, I really enjoyed working in the film industry. That was, I guess it was the same sort of job every day, but different.
Yeah. Yep.
Kind of a little bit like hang gliding. You just, what you're there for, but you never know what's going to happen. It's just going to vary, be different every single day you go there. So that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that.
Do you think that helped you on your Red Bull projects?
It did. I
having
think
knowledge.
I think knowing a lot of a lot of people when I do interviews they say, oh, you've done this before. And I'm like, yeah, well, I did quite a few feature films when I was in the industry, and obviously done a lot of interviews over the years with Red Bull and different things. So it makes it easier when I do stuff with TV and
definitely
interviews and stuff around the world to do these things. But yeah, it was, I would not hesitate to jump straight back into the movie industry again. I really enjoyed that, and just hanging out with everyone. And it did make it hard to watch the films afterwards, I'm not going to lie.
Really?
Just to sit down and go, man, that took like 2 days to film that one scene, it's like...
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool to see how it turns into a movie at the same time, It's like, you don't really... Or at least I didn't really see the big picture, obviously, when you're doing it. It's just another scene here and there, and you're then going here and doing this and that, and then to see it all chopped up into a movie at the end, it was like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. It was somebody's dream that they wanted, and they wrote it down and filmed it and made it all happen. And
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. That especially, you look at all the good directors, for instance. There's a script writer that's written something. Then all of a sudden you've got to give that to a director to put that into vision. Like that's a massive responsibility.
Oh, for sure. So I obviously didn't see much of that being young and new into it. But yeah, like I said, it was pretty cool to see the movies, but at the same time it was like, oh, so fake. I remember that part, I was standing just over there, when they filmed that.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, it would be definitely funny. Where do you see the sport hang gliding going?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's obviously been dying off slowly every year, especially over the last 10 years. But I mean, I hope that it doesn't die completely because, it's one of those sports that it's just amazing when you're up there and to, I don't know, it's hard. I guess for me, like just traveling the world, knowing that, millions of people have traveled the world, been to the countries I've been to, but knowing that none of them have seen the world like I have, whether it's flying in the Pyrenees in Spain and flying along a ridge and all of a sudden, freaking 50 vultures take off that are 10-foot wingspan right next to you off a cliff because you scared them with your shadow, or, just things I've seen from up there. It's just like those memories are irreplaceable. And I'd obviously hate to see the sport die. It's just so amazing and unique that, but at the same time, if these manufacturers can't keep the doors open, it's going to make it hard for it to stay alive. And basically, we just need to get more instructors out there because there's no reason why there's people out there that wouldn't want to hang glide. They just haven't experienced it, And if they did, they would just go, yeah, that's something I want to do. So
that's something I really like the times that we've been together, and that you're always talking, come up, do this. Like you try and get people in. Like, we had obviously the other week with Emma come up, come have a flight. You'll learn. You'll enjoy it, and you promote the sport. Not like you're trying to promote the sport, but you do it in such a way of like once you're up there, you won't regret it. You know, like I think I would because I'm so scared of flying. Because you say, come up, I'm like, I'm too heavy. I'm not going up. But yeah, I think it's a really cool thing. Like it's the only way that more instructors or more people are going to, you know, you need to have that base for people to get up there, I guess, don't you?
You do. I mean, you know, like you said, we do need to have more instructors close to the population.
Yep.
That's obviously a hard thing now too because cities are expanding and it's hard to have an air park or something like that close to a spot. We've got one now out near Canungra that's sort of just about set up, which will be good because it'll be an hour from Brisbane, 45 minutes from the Gold Coast, and people will be able to come down, experience a tandem flight, something like that, and just, you know, see for their own eyes and just go, oh, wow, yeah, that is really cool. You know, that is something that I wouldn't mind doing. But I think a lot of people still see it as an extreme sport and quite risky, which it was back in its day before equipment was certified and tested and home built and all those things. Out of bamboo and plastic, you know, people jumping off cliffs with it and dying. You know, there was a lot of deaths in the early days, and now that the equipment is all certified and, you know, designed much better, it's, you know, it's a whole different sport. So
and people, like, it's like the motorbike thing with people like, oh, you ride, they're scary, but you don't go on it. You go on a piece of equipment that's good. You don't go on something that's bad to crash. You know what I mean? Like if you're going up in the sky, you're going to have good equipment.
Exactly.
You're not jumping off a cliff on something that isn't safe.
No.
You'd be crazy too.
Exactly.
So, but I guess it's happened in the past though.
It has, obviously, many years ago. But yeah, everything's very well designed now, the equipment, and it's very regulated, the sport. You got to have be members, and you got to have the training and all this stuff. So it's once you've done it the right way, it's quite a safe sport. From in my eyes, anyway.
For sure.
Obviously, a lot of people don't see it that way. But yeah, I guess it's hard to predict where hang gliding is going to go. Like I said, a lot of people have gone to paragliding. Even a lot of hang glider pilots are now started paragliding. I don't want to admit that I have started in the last month or so trying my luck on a paraglider as well, just for a bit more of a challenge. Just because there's very few hang gliders left flying around here on a consistent basis. And I don't know, I just thought I'd try something a little different, just to see what all the fuss is about. But
is it as fun?
Personally, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, it's it's just much slower. Yeah. You're sitting down, so it's a little bit more comfortable. But everybody knows Superman doesn't fly sitting down.
No.
Yeah, he's always laying down when he's flying through the sky. So
that's right.
It's it's just different.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's obviously, you know, I'm doing quite well in it already, but it's because I've got so much experience in the air. Just because, you know, I'm flying. It's like putting a professional surfer onto a bodyboard, you know, and letting them go.
He's going to know where to paddle.
He's going to know where to paddle. He's going to know where to sit. He's going to know how to ride the wave.
Yep.
He mightn't know exactly how to use the board.
Minor elements.
Yeah, the minor elements. But he's going to know what he's doing out there still, you know.
For sure.
Yeah, I guess for me it's just a bit of a change and just giving these paragliders a bit of a hard time, basically.
For sure.
Just going out there and beating them all on my beginner wing that they've given me to fly, and just showing them that it's
still experience.
Still got the experience, so so that's been a little bit of fun.
Cool.
Just I think a lot. We just with this whole COVID-19 stuff, we haven't been able to fly cross country and stuff. Just our club have made some rules and things like that. So for me, after 7,000 hours of hang gliding, it gets a little bit boring just to take off and fly around and land back where I started from, because I've done it thousands of times at my home site. So I just thought I'd try something a little different to have a bit of fun with and annoy some others, and maybe try to talk some of the paragliders back into hang gliding, because They don't know what they're missing out on.
That's right.
They're up there, but
It's a different field.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And are you going to continue competing?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
Globally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just home right now, obviously, because can't travel, and otherwise I'd be where would I be? I'd be in Canada right now.
You would be. Yeah.
Yeah. Starting a competition last weekend in Canada. Fortunately, I'm here, so
Yeah.
I was looking forward to that because I'd never flown in Canada before. So
I haven't now.
it was going to be another country to tick off the list on a flying in. Been up there a few times traveling, but never.
So where have you flown? A basic list. I know it's a lot, but
Basic list.
Brazil?
First
USA?
international trip was to Indonesia when I was 15.
yeah.
Japan,
Yeah.
Brazil, all throughout Europe, Spain,
Yep.
Austria, Germany, Italy, France, Switzerland, everywhere through there. Mexico, US.
Obviously Brazil.
A lot in Brazil. Go there a couple times a year. But yeah, generally my main stops are US, Brazil, and Europe.
Yeah.
On a regular basis. So.
Do you, in your time in Austria, did you get to go to the Red Bull head office?
I did.
What's that like?
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, I was actually quite lucky. I looked after the assistant to Mr. Mateschitz himself.
Right.
She came out here and she was a paraglider pilot.
Really?
And Red Bull Australia asked me, they said, we've got a VIP coming out from the head office and she wants to do some paragliding while she's here. And I said, they said, would you be able to look after? She does want to bring her equipment. I said, yeah, I can find her equipment. I can help look after it, get her a flight here and there, wherever she's at. I've got a lot of connections. So, so I got her a flight down at Stanwell Tops down there in Sydney. And then she came up here and another friend gave her some equipment to fly up around this area. And, just looked after her and, went over there a year later or 2 years later, and she's like, you got to come visit the headquarters, and I'll look after you. And they certainly did that. I had the Mr. Mateschitz personal driver picking me up from the hotel and drive me into the headquarters, and then they showed me around, and pretty impressive place. And then
what's a bunker, isn't it?
It's a volcano,
right,
which resembles power.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a sort of big dome-shaped thing with like a volcano-looking top to it.
Yeah.
And then I went and checked out Hangar 7.
Yeah.
Which is where they have all their planes and all their toys. I'm sure Toby Price has a Dakar rally bike in there, and
F1 cars.
F1 cars, and anything that they've any major events they've won and stuff. Those items sort of end up in that hangar.
Yeah. So you got to go there.
I got to go there. It's a thing open to the public. You can go there and
is it?
Pay to visit.
Yeah.
But I actually I got to go to Hangar 8, which is the maintenance hangar, which is where not many people get to go. So I got a bit of a VIP tour, and actually got to meet Mr. Mateschitz himself. He just flown in with the girl that I looked after here, and spent 5 or 10 minutes with him chatting, and amazing guy.
That's very rare, hey?
Yeah. I mean, I was in the headquarters that day, and the people that work in the office next to him never talked to him.
Really?
They said, we've never actually met him. Like, he comes in and he works.
Yeah.
We see him, might wave at him, but never
physically.
Never actually, sat down and had a chat to him. So
that
I was pretty impressed with that I, got to spend so much time with him, just chatting, and
that's awesome. So Hangar 8, what do you mean by maintenance?
So it's the hangar that they do all the maintenance on their planes. So they had, I think it was the DC-6, the big plane that they've got. It's a passenger plane back in America. And
Proper functioning hangar.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huge hangar. But yeah, they had this toy in there, and it's not quite a jumbo size, but not far off. About a 737 size plane, and just walking into it, like they just ripped all the seats out and turned it into big lounges, and like just full.
They just do things right.
They do.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just pretty mind blowing just going there and
Yep.
and just seeing, that hangar and
Scale.
the toys in it, and
Yep.
just the workshop and all that. It was just something special. So yeah,
Definitely.
I've certainly had the VIP tour through their facilities over there in Austria. So it was pretty cool in Salzburg. Yeah,
Geez, you've made some good memories, eh?
I certainly have.
Different things,
Yep. The 14 years with Red Bull was definitely got to experience a lot of pretty cool things.
Yep.
From Formula One races to
Yeah.
seeing their hangars to
Yep.
meeting amazing other athletes and
Yeah.
becoming friends with them. And
Because they have the conference or something too, don't they? Where you get to all the ambassadors or athletes.
yeah, we do athlete summit every year.
Summit,
So
not
all
conference,
the
yeah.
all the Red Bull athletes get together that are available at the time.
Yep.
Sort of try to do it at the time of the year that most of the athletes are available.
Mm.
Obviously, it's pretty hard when I think there's around 25 athletes in Australia.
Yep.
I'm not sure what there is right now, but it was always in the 20 to 25 range when I was there.
Yep.
Trying to, doing all different sports, trying to have them all in the country at the same time is not easy. I know, just from trying to catch up with mates here on the Gold Coast that are athletes, and it's hard just two of you is trying to have the right timing to catch up, let alone having 25 there in the same spot. So we never ever had all the athletes there at the same time, but we definitely got 80, 90% in quite a few years. And basically just a bit of a get together and let your hair down. And, we did do a lot of learning and stuff. They'd bring speakers in and teach us on how to do social mediaing and post and how to grow our channels and YouTubes and things like that, how the ins and outs of Red Bull worked, and sort of just give us a bit of an overall picture and, just get us all to bond and have a bit of fun. And
Such a good brand for it, isn't it?
it is, yeah.
For that stuff. The background work that's put in is huge.
Oh, for sure. So, a lot of good times with them. And,
That's cool.
Certainly done a lot of things that could have never done on my own, so...
It's definitely, it's a little push, isn't it?
It is,
push.
yeah.
So where can people find you online, mate?
Most of my social media is just Jonny Durand, Jonny.
Yep.
And I'm on Instagram, Facebook.
Yep.
That's about the two that I use most.
Awesome.
I'm not a huge Snapchat person or any of those things yet.
TikTok?
But TikTok, no,
TikTok.
I haven't got a TikTok account. No.
Don't go that path, I don't reckon.
No, I don't think so. I'll stick to the Instagram and Facebook for the time being. Also on YouTube as well, on the same net handles. So.
And what's just for people that are listening, what's the Red Bull movies? What's the clips that are out there? So you've got the for the distance record. What was it called?
The documentary I did
on
over
Red
there
Bull
was
TV. They're still on Red Bull TV. So what was it called?
the Morning Glory one was called Glorious Days.
Glorious Days. Yep.
And then the world records down in the Great Australian Bite was called the Boomerang Project.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was going out and back, so we decided to call it an Australian name like the Boomerang.
Yep.
And then the one I did with the Weather Channel over in the States was called Wind Glider.
Isn't that terrible?
That is terrible.
Yeah.
I said it before. I forget.
Wind Chaser? The Wind?
Wind.
Man, I've watched it too.
Wind Chase, Wind Glider, Wind.
I'll put it in the I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah. I'll have to figure out what it's called again. I'm sure whatever I told you before was right. It's just slipped my mind right now.
It's so easy when you're in conversation. Things just pop into your brain. But when you get put on the spot, what's the name of
Wind
something?
Rider.
Wind Rider.
Wind Rider. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, if you just if they just Google my name with any one of those things, they'll generally pop up. But
cool.
Yeah, that Wind Rider one is really cool for people to check out because it really does explain.
Yep.
You said you've seen it yourself, so it just gives you a bit more of an understanding of what we do and
So the
how we-
art and science behind it.
Exactly. Yeah, they did a lot of I forget what it's called, the 3D imaging
Modelling.
modelling. So they sort of demonstrate what thermals were and things like that, and had my hang glider, my Red Bull hang glider, flying between these thermals and stuff. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, they did a pretty amazing job on that. So that's definitely a good one to check out. But yeah, the YouTube clips of the Morning Glory and things like that.
Yep.
You know,
It'll blow you away. Like for myself, that's some of the Red Bull clips is what got me into going to uni for film production. Was just to see I didn't want to make movies. I wanted to get into making Red Bull clips basically, and that type of thing. That was awesome for me. That just the impression that it left was, yeah, it was pretty strong. So yeah, it's good to see.
yeah.
But mate, thank you so much for being a guest. We've pumped 2 hours out.
Holy jeez.
Yep.
Time flies when you're having fun, they say.
It does, mate. So we, when you said how long will it take, I'm like, oh, it could be an hour or so, but yeah, we're hour 57.
Jeez.
And
all right.
yeah, we've nailed it, mate. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and all the best for the rest of the hang gliding future, and hopefully more people get into the sport.
Let's hope so, mate. Just got to get out there and try it for themselves, and they'll be hooked.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
All right. Thanks, Mick.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.